But probably one of the biggest issues on the Ace Pro is something so simple to fix in the design phase. I really don't know how it made it like this into production. But with the Ace Pro, you cannot... Well, hey, what's up everyone? Welcome to the channel. My name is Steven. So about a month or so ago, the Insta360 Ace Pro was released, and all of the YouTube tech reviewers dropped videos about how this was going to be the best action camera of 2024. And I admit I fell for the hype. I really wanted to get my hands on the Ace Pro. So when Insta360 reached out to me to see if I wanted to review the X3, I told them I already had that, appreciate it, but I would love to test and review the Ace Pro. And they said, sure, we'll send it to you. So I've had the Ace Pro now for about 2 weeks and I've used it a lot in testing, some really thorough testing. So yes, they did send me the Ace Pro as well as a bunch of accessories, but they are not influencing my opinion whatsoever. I'm gonna be real, be honest, because I keep it real on this channel.
I keep it real!
All right, well, let's take a look at some key features and stats of the Insta360 Ace Pro, as well as take a look at some comparison footage with a GoPro. Well, first off, when you get the Ace Pro inside the box, you get obviously the Ace Pro. Then you also get a couple of manuals, a quick start guide, some stickers, a USB-C to USB-C charging cable, an adhesive mount, and the magnetic quick release mount. Now, I do want to mention that this magnetic quick release mount is not solely just magnetic. The magnets help align it with the holes so that you can get it secured on the camera. Once it's secured, there's actually 4 little pins that lock into the camera and hold it in place. And once it's secured, it is very secure. I mean, I've waved this thing around on a selfie stick and it does not want to come off. To release it, there's 2 little buttons on the side. You just push in and those little pins releases the camera. It's really super, super quick. But it is not just magnets holding the camera. I want to clear that up. Next, you will need a memory card. Put it in, and then you just follow the quick on-screen guide, get the camera set up, download the latest firmware, and you're good to go. So the Ace Pro features a 1/1.3 inch sensor, which is bigger than the GoPro Hero 12's 1/1.9 inch sensor, and definitely bigger than my GoPro Hero 10, which has a 1/2.3 inch sensor. And it has been co-engineered with Leica for this lens. Insta360 claims that this larger sensor helps capture more light with increased dynamic range, more accurate colors, even when shooting underwater. Now the Ace Pro does have 8K resolution, which for an action camera is pretty insane. However, when I spoke with Insta360, they did recommend still shooting in 4K instead of 8K. In 4K, it takes advantage of something called pixel binning. Effectively, it takes 4 pixels and crams them into one, so you get a really good, sharp, clear image. Testing the Ace Pro in the bright Colorado sky on my runs, you can instantly see that the motion blur of the Ace Pro looks to be greater. There's a little bit more of that blur, which kind of gives the impression that I'm running faster. The Active HDR makes those colors really pop and look really quite nice on the Ace Pro, even when the sun is directly behind me. Here again, you can see the colors look really nice on the Ace Pro, but the image overall lacks a bit of sharpness or detail compared to the GoPro. And here in this clip where I'm running on some gravel, you can see the difference in the motion blur again. Probably one of the biggest features being highlighted by Insta360 about the Ace Pro and all the other reviewers out there is a mode called Pure Video mode. Pure Video is powered by their 5nm AI chip with AI denoising and that 1/1.3 inch sensor. It is a specific mode for shooting at night in low light situations that brings innovative noise reduction, enhanced brightness, and improved dynamic range. Now it does only work in 4K 30 frames per second or lower. In my testing, the Ace Pro really did excel when shooting at night in Pure Video mode. And you can clearly see the difference when comparing it to the GoPro. Even in normal video mode, without Pure Video turned on, just walking in my house in the daytime with no lights on, you can see the Ace Pro is much more stable. It doesn't have that notorious GoPro or action camera shake. Now at night outside, you can see it's quite dark, but with the Ace Pro in Pure Video mode, the GoPro in 4K 24 frames per second, up to 1600 ISO max, you can clearly see the Ace Pro is leaps and bounds better. The stabilization is just insane for an action camera at night. The clarity zoom, which we'll talk about in more detail in just a moment, works really well at night. Also, again, at 4K 30 or below. Even when running at night, it looks super smooth. I mean, finally, we have an action camera that I can shoot with at night and actually get usable footage that's not going to make viewers sick or scroll through the video. Now, the footage does look cooler and a little bit darker than the GoPro, but you can see that that AI chip really does a fantastic job to denoise the image. There's really no noise in the image. It looks really, really impressive. The only negative that I've found so far to Pure Video is you really can't mess with it a whole lot in post-production in editing. if I wanted to bring some of those shadows or that darkness up just a little bit, it starts to reintroduce some of that noise back into the image. So we really kind of just have to take it as it is, but it's still nice to have that footage that's usable. Next, I did a time-lapse test at night when it was 29 degrees or colder outside. The GoPro was set to night lapse mode and the Ace Pro was set to time lapse. Both recorded for 30 minutes. That was the time that I chose, and then they shut off. I tried to get the settings for that time lapse as close as I could, but you can see clearly the GoPro's clip was like 38 seconds versus I think 8 seconds on the Ace Pro. The GoPro's footage is much brighter overall, but does contain a lot more noise. You can really see the noise pretty easily if you look at the fence on the side. What was interesting though is when I turned the Ace Pro back on after being outside in the 29 degrees or colder, the screen, this flip up screen here, was flickering vertically a little bit in like bars. You could see it going across the screen. And that happened for probably 20 or 30 seconds, I guess, before the camera kind of warmed up. And I also noticed that if I panned the camera while it was still cold, it was definitely delayed in showing that image. Now this was not the case for my GoPro 10 with that Enduro battery. I was able to turn it on and it seemed to be normal. Now you can also capture slow motion footage with the Ace Pro at 4K up to 120 frames per second. You can actually go all the way down to 240 frames per second in 1080p. However, I would kind of advise against that because the image quality really does degrade at that point. When looking at the 4K 120 frames per second footage, I did see some odd color warping in the footage. If you look here specifically, you can see some kind of flashes of color in the dirt. Now keep in mind this was in bright daylight too, which is really pretty optimal conditions for action cameras. Now the colors did look really nice and great on the Ace Pro, and this is even without Active HDR since we were shooting at 120 frames per second. Now here in this clip over this field, the colors on the Ace Pro definitely look much more dreamy, but you can see the lack of detail when you look at the flowers in the foreground. Now also it's important to know that using the default slow motion mode, which has the turtle icon on the camera, there is no audio captured in that mode, and that video is automatically converted to 30 frames per second when editing in post-production. However, if you use one of the other presets that has 120 frames per second, or if you create your own preset that is at a 4K 120 frames per second, it does capture audio when recording, and it comes into post at 120 frames per second, which you can then slow down to 30 frames, 24 frames, 60 frames, whatever it is you're working on. Next up is the Active HDR. Now, Active HDR keeps your video stabilized in like action scenarios, think running, while keeping those highlights protected and those shadows for more vibrant colors. Now, it is very important to know that Active HDR is automatically turned on when you're shooting in 4K 30 or lower. It is not available above 30 frames per second. However, Insta360 did tell me that they do plan to release a firmware update later this month that'll give users the ability to turn that mode off if they would choose to do that. Now, my testing, the Active HDR did a fantastic job protecting those highlights and the shadows. In this test footage, you can clearly see more of the sun in the background and the definition in the clouds behind me. And you can see my face is exposed better with the Ace Pro versus the GoPro. However, when facing the sun, the Active HDR almost makes my skin look a bit reddish and flat or out of focus just a little bit. You can see the fence appears to be a bit more in focus than my face, and this is with the face priority selected for the focus. We also seem to lose a bit of the detail in the background. Just look here at the tree and then the evergreen tree in the background. And the skin is also lacking in detail compared to the GoPro. Another feature really being touted is clarity zoom. With just a double tap of the screen, the camera will instantly zoom in 2 times without compromising image quality. Here's some sample footage showing the clarity zoom versus post-production zoom of the GoPro, again in bright sunny weather. You can see Pikes Peak looks nicer on the Ace Pro with clarity zoom versus the post-production zoom GoPro. Even at night, the clarity zoom works really well. Just a side note though, the clarity zoom only works in 4K, and that's to take advantage of that 8K sensor for the zooming capabilities. One of the biggest features of the Ace Pro is this flip up screen. For an action camera, that's something new. It's unheard of, and no other company has done that yet. This flip up screen on the Ace Pro is 2.4 inches, and it is very, very nice. You can flip it up about 90 degrees like this if you're doing low angle shooting, so I can still see my shot. I can make sure it's framed well. If I'm getting somebody's feet or a plant, I can hold that camera down low and still see it without craning my neck and getting down low like I would have to do for a GoPro or another camera. You can also go up to 180 degrees if you're going to be vlogging, holding the camera out like this. I can clearly see my face. I know that I'm in frame. I'm capturing what I want to capture, It is really nice. And also the screen is incredibly sensitive. It's one of the most sensitive touch screens I've used, not just on an action camera. It is really very, very nice. And what's nice about it as well, there's these two buttons on the side you push in to lift it up, so it's not just gonna get snagged on something and come up automatically. Maybe you get caught on your jacket, a pocket. You have to push both buttons in and then you can lift it up. It's very simple. But probably one of the biggest issues on the Ace Pro is something so simple to fix in the design phase. I really don't know how it made it like this into production. But with the Ace Pro, you cannot see this flip up screen while looking through polarized sunglasses.
W said, mate.
As a trail and ultra runner here on YouTube, I am almost always carrying an action camera with me. Here in Colorado, it is super bright, over 300 days of sunshine. It's one of the reasons why we moved here. But I am always wearing polarized sunglasses, so not being able to see that screen through my glasses, I have to kind of take the glasses down, hold the camera to the side just a little bit, trying to see something is frustrating and also a little bit dangerous because it takes my eyes off of the trail for longer. However, I did have a meeting with Insta360 and I brought up this issue because it is so important to me. They said I was the third creator to mention that to them. They are aware of it. It is a hardware issue because of the actual materials used, so they are working to address it. They didn't give me a timeline, however, of when that may be corrected, maybe a future production batch, I'm not sure. So hopefully in the future, we might see an Ace Pro with a different glass so we can actually see through our polarized sunglasses. The flow state stabilization works really quite well. It also has horizon lock. However, it is only available in the free frame mode. Horizon lock is also available on the GoPro 11 and newer. As for stabilization though, when compared to my GoPro 10, you can see both of them do a really good job at stabilizing the shot. Where the Ace Pro really shines though, like I mentioned earlier, is in stabilization when shooting at night in pure video mode. It's on another level. It's a night and day difference compared to the GoPro. As for the audio captured from the Ace Pro, I feel it does a really good job. The wind reduction also works really quite well. Take a listen to these sample clips. Here's a test while running up this hill, seeing how that sounds, if you can hear me clearly, aside from the breathing. All right, going downhill now. Yeah, sounds pretty good, I think. Hopefully good. And now the audio from the back of the cameras as I'm standing about 12 inches, maybe 14 inches behind the cameras. Panning to the left. Again, these are in 4K, 24 frames per second, everything auto white balance, standard color, and an audio test running on some gravel. Holding the camera about chest high, maybe a little lower than chest high. The audio levels do seem to be a bit higher than the GoPro. However, it's really nice, clear, crisp audio that I could definitely use. Overall, the levels are higher overall, giving me nice, clear audio, and that wind reduction is working really well even when I'm running. The battery charges incredibly fast. It'll go from 0 to 80% in just 22 minutes with the fast charging, and a full charge in 46 minutes. Battery life is also really quite good. Insta360 claims up to 100 minutes at 4K 30 frames per second. I have not depleted the battery yet. I have been using it a lot. I've charged it a few times, but when out on a long run, I've not had issues with the battery at all. There are some other really neat features as well, like hand gestures. You can hold up your hand like this to start a recording, hold it up again to stop the recording. They're really pretty neat and they do work very well. However, I've not really found myself using those. There are also voice commands and these do work really, really well. There's no wake up word like on GoPro. You have to say, GoPro, take a photo. For the Insta360 Ace Pro, you just say, take a photo. It takes a photo. It's really pretty simple and it works really well. You can also pause a recording and then resume it later. This is really good for maybe you're filming yourself and somebody walks behind you or says something loud. You can pause it, wait for them to move, resume, and it's going to save it on that same video clip, thereby kind of reducing the number of clips that you have on your memory card, increasing your storage capacity, hopefully. You can also cancel a clip directly on the camera once you finish recording. Let's say it's just something you're recording it, it's not good, you know it's going to be not good. Hold that record button down for about 3 seconds and it'll delete that footage. There's also a whole bunch of AI features in the camera like AI highlight assist, AI warp, AI editing in the app. However, I'm not really going to cover those in this video. They've been covered numerous times by other reviewers. And now with the last firmware update, you can also pair it to certain motorcycle helmets to capture the audio from your motorcycle helmet directly into the video, which would be pretty awesome to do. You can also pair it with Garmin and Apple Watches as well to get GPS data overlaid as well. Stay tuned, as I may be doing a separate video on the Apple Watch Ultra 2, getting it paired, and then overlaying that footage. So the Insta360 Ace Pro retails for $449 for the standalone kit. However, there are many different kits available from Insta360 all the way up to $624 for the GPS-ready kit. For comparison's sake, right now you can buy the GoPro Hero 12 for about $350, or you can get the DJI Osmo Action 4 for $400. So is the Ace Pro worth $50 or $100 more than the competition? Well, I'll let you decide. So we covered the highlights and really cool features of the Ace Pro, but there are also some cons and things that are negative about the Ace Pro. We're going to cover those right now. The first thing for me, obviously, is that flip-up screen. It is amazing and also frustrating. Not being able to see it through polarized sunglasses to me is a huge, huge deal. It's almost a deal breaker for me. The color profiles of the Ace Pro are just okay. There is no log mode, there's no 10-bit color. Yes, I know my GoPro 10 does not have 10-bit color. The flat and standard profiles look pretty much about the same, that I'm really not even using the flat profile because it looks the same as the standard. And in post-production, the footage definitely does not grade as well as my 10-bit footage from my DJI Osmo Pocket 3. It honestly doesn't really color grade for me as well as the GoPro either. Now that could just be a learning curve. I've got to work with it a little bit more potentially. Now Insta360 did tell me they purposefully chose to go with 10-bit color because in production they found out that their AI chip that does a lot of the other nice features on the camera would not work with 10-bit color. So they chose to go for those AI features like pure video over the 10-bit color. The focus overall seems smudgy or flat. There just isn't the detail that even my GoPro 10 picks up. Now the minimum focal length is 40 centimeters, which is 1.31 feet, which is the same as the GoPro, so there really shouldn't be any difference in that regard. And you can really see this in just about any YouTube review video out there. If you look at the footage, you can see the focus appears to be a little off. Next up is the weight. It is heavy. With the battery, it weighs 180 grams. That's almost 30 grams heavier than the GoPro 12 with the battery. As someone that carries an action camera on long ultra marathons, 100-mile races, weight is a very important feature to me. The Leica lens is also not easily replaceable by us, the users. However, Insta360 will replace it during the first year if it gets damaged. When I asked them how many times this could be used, they said it was limited, so probably 1, maybe 2 times per year total. So with all of that said, do I think the Insta360 Ace Pro will be the action camera of 2024 like all the others claimed? I don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe. If Insta360 changes the screen material, changes that hardware limitation to where we can see the lens through polarized sunglasses, then yes, maybe it will be. If I was a travel vlogger only or somebody that's just walking around and talking to a camera, it's probably going to be a really good choice of a camera. But the focus issues and lack of detail, and as someone who color grades most of their footage, the lack of 10-bit color is a big deal for me as well. With that said though, I definitely will be using the Ace Pro for night footage. Previously, in recording race videos, whatever running videos I'm doing at night, I would generally not record much video at night because it looked like crap. Now I can actually get usable, good footage with the Ace Pro, so I will definitely be using that. Well, the Insta360 Ace Pro has been out for a little over a month now, so let me know below in the comments if you've tested it, your thoughts versus the GoPro, the DJI Osmo Action 4, any other cameras out there. Let us know below. I'm sure everybody would really appreciate that. However, there is another camera that I think will be the most popular vlog camera of 2024, and I've been using it as an action camera as well. So be sure to subscribe to the channel so you see that video when I release it. Well, thank you to Insta360 for sending the Ace Pro. Stay tuned, as I will probably be doing a review video on this GPS remote they sent as well. That'll be a separate video, so definitely stay tuned for that. And if you haven't already, why don't you go take a look at the video I put together for my 40th birthday run, a part of my training log series. It's on your screen. Take a look at that video. Thank you all so much. I do appreciate you, and I'll see you in the next one.